The first time I heard the little girl call my husband Dad, I nearly dropped the grocery bag in my hands. I was standing outside a small ice cream shop on the other side of town, a place we never visited. My husband, Ethan, wasn't supposed to be there. He was supposed to be at work. Yet there he stood near the outdoor tables, smiling at a little girl who couldn't have been older than 7. Then she wrapped her arms around his waist and looked up at him. "Dad, can we get chocolate this time?" My entire world stopped. The smile vanished from Ethan's face. His eyes darted toward the street. Toward me. For one horrifying second, our eyes met. Then he quickly turned away. As if he wished I hadn't seen him. As if he had something to hide. I couldn't breathe. 23 years of marriage. 1 daughter. 1 son. A lifetime of memories. And suddenly none of it felt real. Who was that child? And why was she calling my husband Dad? My name is Rachel Carter. Until that afternoon, I believed I knew everything about the man I married. I was wrong. Very wrong. And the truth would eventually break my heart in a way I never imagined. But before it healed it. The strange behavior had started months earlier. At first it was small. The kind of thing you ignore. The kind of thing you explain away. Ethan suddenly became protective of his phone. Not obsessively. Just enough to make me notice. When messages arrived, he'd tilt the screen away. When calls came in, he'd step outside. One evening I walked into the kitchen while he was texting. He immediately locked the phone. Too quickly. I tried to laugh it off. Secret girlfriend? I joked. Instead of laughing, he froze. Just for a second. But I saw it. And once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. A few weeks later, I found a receipt in his truck. An expensive toy store receipt. Almost $200. There was only one item listed. A giant stuffed unicorn. I stared at it. Confused. We didn't have grandchildren. Neither of our children had kids. When Ethan came inside, I showed him the receipt. "What's this?" His face changed immediately. Oh. Oh? It's nothing. $200 isn't nothing. He rubbed the back of his neck. I'll explain later. The answer annoyed me. Why not now? Because I can't. Can't. Not won't. Can't. The conversation ended there. But the questions didn't. Then came the Saturdays. For 20 years Ethan spent Saturdays at home. He loved grilling. Watching football. Fixing things around the house. Then suddenly he started disappearing. Every Saturday. Sometimes for hours. Sometimes all day. The explanations were always vague. Helping a friend. Running errands. Volunteer work. Something for church. None of it made sense. Not anymore. One Saturday morning I asked where he was going. He hesitated. Just long enough. Then said, out. Out. That was it. Not where. Not why. Just out. I watched him drive away feeling something unfamiliar. Suspicion. Our daughter Olivia noticed too. One evening she stopped by for dinner. Halfway through the meal she looked around the table. "Where's Dad?" "Busy." She frowned. "He seems busy a lot lately." I forced a smile. "He has things going on." She studied me carefully. "Mom." "What? Are you okay?" The question nearly made me cry. Because I wasn't okay. Not even close. A month later things got worse. Much worse. Ethan missed our anniversary dinner. 23 years. And he forgot. Or at least that's what I believed. I sat alone at a restaurant for nearly an hour. The waiter kept asking if someone was joining me. I kept saying yes. Eventually I left. When I got home, Ethan rushed through the door looking exhausted. I'm sorry. I stared at him. You forgot. No. Then where were you? He opened his mouth. Then closed it. I can't explain. That answer shattered something inside me. Not because he was late. Not because he missed dinner. But because he wouldn't tell me why. The next morning I checked our bank account. I wish I hadn't. There were withdrawals I didn't recognize. Several $100s every month. Sometimes more. The payments were listed under different names. None of them made sense. When I confronted him, he looked devastated. Not angry. Not defensive. Devastated. Rachel. What are you hiding? He lowered his head. Please trust me. Trust me. The two words that become impossible to hear when trust is already cracking. Then came the ice cream shop. The little girl. The hug. The word. Dad. I sat in my car for nearly 20 minutes after seeing them. Unable to move. Unable to think. Eventually Ethan and the child left with a woman I had never seen before. She looked tired. Thin. Protective. The little girl held both of their hands. Like a family. Like they belonged together. And my husband fit perfectly into the picture. Too perfectly. That night he came home as if nothing had happened. I couldn't even look at him. Every smile felt fake. Every word felt rehearsed. Every touch felt like a lie. At bedtime he reached for my hand. I pulled away. His face fell. But he didn't argue. He simply whispered. I'm sorry. And for the first time in 23 years. I wondered if my husband had another family. A secret daughter. A second life. And the next clue I discovered would make that possibility feel almost certain. The next clue arrived 3 days later. And it was the one that convinced me my marriage was over. I wasn't looking for evidence anymore. At least that's what I kept telling myself. But when trust begins to crack, your eyes start searching for things they never noticed before. That Thursday afternoon, I was putting away laundry when Ethan's phone vibrated on the kitchen counter. He had forgotten it for the first time in months. The screen lit up. I wasn't trying to snoop. Then I saw the message. She misses you already. Thank you for today. My heart stopped. No name. Just a number. And below it was a photo. A little girl smiling beside a giant stuffed unicorn. The same unicorn from the receipt. The same little girl from the ice cream shop. My hands began shaking. The room suddenly felt too small. Too hot. Too quiet. I stared at the screen until it went dark. When Ethan came home that evening, I could barely contain my anger. How long has this been going on? He froze. What? You know exactly what. His face drained of color. Rachel. Who is she? Silence. The kind that hurts more than words. Please. His voice cracked. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Those two words felt like a confession. I laughed bitterly. You have a child, don't you? The question hung in the air. Ethan looked like someone had punched him. But he didn't answer. And his silence became my answer. That weekend I told Olivia. I hadn't planned to. But I couldn't carry it alone anymore. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. As I explained everything, the receipts, the messages, the Saturdays, the little girl, I watched her expression change. Shock. Confusion. Then heartbreak. No. She shook her head. Dad wouldn't do that. I saw her, Olivia. Maybe there's another explanation. What explanation? She didn't have one. Neither did I. Because every clue pointed to the same conclusion. Our son Matthew reacted differently. When I told him, he became furious. Absolutely furious. Dad lied to us. We don't know that. Mom, come on. He stood up. You found a kid calling him Dad. The word sounded brutal when spoken aloud. I know. His eyes filled with tears. I thought he was better than this. That sentence broke me. Because part of me agreed. A week later, everything exploded. I followed Ethan. For the first time in my life. And I hated myself for doing it. But I needed answers. I couldn't live in uncertainty anymore. His truck led me across town. Past neighborhoods I didn't recognize. Past shopping centers. Past the city park. Finally he pulled into the driveway of a small blue house. The same woman from the ice cream shop opened the front door. The little girl came running outside. Dad. She threw herself into his arms. He picked her up. Held her close. Kissed the top of her head. I felt physically sick. There it was. Proof. Real proof. No explanations. No misunderstandings. No excuses. I stepped out of my car. And marched straight toward them. Ethan saw me first. The color drained from his face. Rachel. The woman turned. The little girl smiled. Then she waved. As if we were friends. As if my world wasn't collapsing. I stopped a few feet away. My voice shook. Tell me the truth. Nobody spoke. Right now. Ethan slowly lowered the child to the ground. The little girl looked confused. The woman looked terrified. And my husband looked heartbroken. Not guilty. Heartbroken. At the time I didn't understand the difference. Is she your daughter? My voice cracked. The little girl looked at Ethan. Then at me. Then back at Ethan. Dad? The word hit me like a knife. I began crying. Right there in the driveway. Months of fear. Months of suspicion. Months of pain. All pouring out at once. The woman suddenly stepped forward. Please. Her eyes filled with tears. Let him explain. I laughed. Explain what? Ethan closed his eyes. Then whispered. I'm sorry. Those words destroyed me. Because innocent people apologize for mistakes. Guilty people apologize for lies. And in that moment, I believed he was guilty. I turned around. Ready to leave. Ready to drive home. Ready to figure out how to survive the end of my marriage. Then something happened. Something I never expected. The little girl grabbed my hand. I looked down. Her tiny fingers were trembling. Her eyes were filled with tears. And she asked one simple question. A question that changed everything. Are you Mrs. Rachel? I stared at her. How do you know my name? The little girl smiled sadly. Because Dad talks about you all the time. I froze. The woman began crying. Ethan looked away. And suddenly nothing made sense anymore. The little girl reached into her jacket pocket. Then pulled out a folded piece of paper. She handed it to me. It's for you. Confused, I unfolded it. Inside was a drawing. Crayon stick figures. A man. A woman. A little girl. 2 grown children. A dog. And a large yellow sun. At the top were 6 shaky handwritten words. Thank you for sharing your dad. I couldn't breathe. I slowly looked up. The woman was sobbing now. Ethan's eyes were filled with tears. And for the first time, I realized I might not understand any of this. Not even a little. The woman finally spoke. My name is Sarah. I said nothing. She wiped her eyes. My husband died 3 years ago. The words caught me off guard. He was a firefighter. She swallowed hard. And Lily never recovered. I looked at the little girl. She stood quietly beside Ethan, holding his hand. Sarah continued. She stopped talking for months. I frowned. What does that have to do with Ethan? Sarah looked at him. Then back at me. And the next words changed the meaning of every clue I'd spent months collecting. Every receipt. Every disappearance. Every secret. Every lie. Every Saturday. Every dollar. Every message. Every moment. Because your husband saved my daughter's life. And what Sarah revealed next would make me wish I had never doubted the man I loved. I stood frozen in Sarah's driveway. The drawing trembled in my hands. The words at the top blurred through my tears. Thank you for sharing your dad. I looked from Sarah to Ethan. Then to Lily. Nothing made sense. Not yet. But for the first time in months, I wasn't angry. I was afraid. Afraid that I had gotten everything wrong. Afraid that I had accused the man I loved of something unforgivable. Sarah took a deep breath. Then she began telling me the story. And with every sentence, another piece of my certainty shattered. 3 years earlier, Sarah's husband, Michael, had died while responding to a warehouse fire. One moment he was kissing his wife goodbye. The next, he never came home. Lily had been 4 years old. Sarah showed me a photograph sitting on a shelf near the window. A smiling firefighter holding a laughing little girl on his shoulders. Michael. Lily. A family that should have had decades together. Instead, they got 4 short years. When he died, Sarah whispered, Lily stopped being Lily. The little girl who once laughed all day suddenly became silent. She barely spoke. Barely smiled. She stopped drawing. Stopped playing. Stopped believing good things could happen. Sarah fought back tears. I was losing her. I looked at Lily. She sat quietly beside Ethan, holding his hand. The same hand I had nearly let go forever. Then Sarah told me how Ethan entered their lives. One rainy Saturday. Sarah's car had broken down outside a grocery store. She had Lily with her. No family nearby. No money for repairs. No one to call. Ethan happened to be there. He helped push the car into a parking space. Then paid for a tow truck. Without asking for anything in return. Sarah smiled through tears. He reminded me of Michael. I looked at Ethan. His eyes stayed fixed on the ground. Ashamed. Not because he had done something wrong. Because he had hidden it. A few weeks later Ethan checked on them. Then again. And again. Eventually Lily started talking to him. At first only a few words. Then full conversations. Then laughter. Sarah wiped her eyes. I hadn't heard her laugh in almost a year. I felt my throat tighten. The image hurt. A little girl carrying grief that heavy. At such a young age. Then Sarah said something that made me cry. The first time Lily smiled again, it was because Ethan taught her how to fly a kite. I looked at Lily. She smiled. Mine got stuck in a tree. Ethan laughed softly. And then we got another one. For the first time in months. I heard my husband's real laugh. And it broke my heart. But why did she call him Dad? The question escaped before I could stop it. Sarah's expression fell. Lily lowered her eyes. Ethan finally spoke. For the first time since I arrived. It wasn't supposed to happen. His voice cracked. I kept correcting her. I stared at him. He swallowed hard. One day she asked if she could call me Dad when she missed her father. The silence that followed was unbearable. I told her she only had one dad. Lily nodded. He lives in heaven. Nobody spoke. Then she added quietly. But sometimes my heart misses him. I couldn't stop crying. Not anymore. Ethan looked at me. His eyes were red. I never wanted to replace anyone. I know. But every time she said it, his voice broke. I saw a little girl trying to hold on to a piece of her childhood. Sarah wiped away tears. So eventually we stopped correcting her. I looked at Lily. The child I had convinced myself was proof of betrayal. The child who had become the center of every fear. And all she really was lonely. Then came the part that hurt the most. Because it explained every clue. Every secret. Every suspicious moment. Every lie. The monthly withdrawals? Ethan had been secretly helping Sarah pay for therapy sessions. The stuffed unicorn? A reward after Lily completed 6 difficult months of grief counseling. The Saturdays? Visits to the park, library, and community center. The text messages? Updates about Lily's progress. The secret phone calls? Conversations with counselors and support groups. Everything I thought proved betrayal was actually kindness. But there was one secret left. The biggest one. The secret Ethan had hidden from everyone. Including me. Sarah looked at him. You should tell her. Ethan shook his head. No. She deserves to know. I watched him carefully. A knot formed in my stomach. What is it? He didn't answer. What aren't you telling me? Finally Sarah whispered. The withdrawals weren't just helping us. I frowned. What do you mean? Her eyes filled with tears. Ethan sold something. I turned toward him. What did you sell? Silence. Then he looked away. My truck. The words hit me like a wave. What? I sold it 2 months ago. I stared at him. But you've been driving it. No. He laughed sadly. I've been borrowing it from my friend Jack. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why? His answer shattered me. Because Lily needed surgery. The world seemed to stop. Sarah began crying openly. The insurance wouldn't cover everything. I looked at Ethan. Speechless. Completely speechless. He rubbed his eyes. It wasn't enough. Ethan. I couldn't just watch. My heart broke. Not because of what he had done. Because he carried it alone. 4 months. I remembered every argument. Every accusation. Every cold shoulder. Every moment I doubted him. And suddenly I wanted nothing more than to take every word back. I thought you were cheating. The confession came out as a whisper. Ethan nodded slowly. I know. Why didn't you tell me? His answer was immediate. Because I promised Sarah. No. Tears streamed down my face. That's not the real reason. For a moment he said nothing. Then finally admitted it. I was afraid. Of what? Of losing Lily. The truth settled over all of us. He wasn't protecting a secret. He was protecting a child. A child who had already lost enough. I walked toward him. Slowly. Carefully. Then wrapped my arms around him. For several seconds neither of us spoke. We simply stood there. Holding each other. Crying. Healing. 6 months later our family looked very different. Not because someone left. Because someone joined. Every Sunday we had dinner together. Me. Ethan. Olivia. Matthew. Sarah. And Lily. The first few times felt unusual. Then natural. Then permanent. One evening Lily sat beside me coloring at the kitchen table. She looked up suddenly. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." She smiled. "Can I call you Grandma Rachel when I'm older?" The room fell silent. Then everyone laughed through tears. I pulled her into a hug. "You can call me whatever makes your heart happy." A year later Lily's health improved. Her laughter became louder. Her smiles became brighter. And our family became bigger than we ever imagined. Not through blood. Not through obligation. But through love. The kind of love that appears quietly. Unexpectedly. And changes everything. One evening I asked Ethan if he regretted anything. He thought for a moment. Then smiled. "Only one thing." "What?" "Not trusting you with the truth." I squeezed his hand. "I regret something too." "What?" "Believing what my eyes saw instead of asking what your heart was carrying." Neither of us spoke after that. We didn't need to. Because some lessons stay with you forever. People often think family is something you're born into. Sometimes that's true. But sometimes family is the person who stays. The person who helps. The person who chooses to love when they don't have to. And every time I hear Lily call Ethan Dad now, I don't hear betrayal. I hear healing. I hear hope. I hear a little girl whose broken heart finally found room to smile again. And I remember that sometimes. The thing that looks most like a secret is actually the purest act of love.